I'm going to call the December meeting of the Richland County Board to order. Clerk Kalish, would you please call the roll?
Carroll. Miller.
Here.
Brewer.
Here.
Sieb.
I don't understand why we can't get this thing in.
Here.
Renish.
Here.
Luck. Annie. Gotchel.
Here.
Glassburner. Gentis.
Here.
Turk.
Here.
Cosgrove.
Here.
Frank. Severson. Williamson.
Here.
Cooey.
Here.
Fleming.
Here.
Voice. McGuire. You have a quorum. You have 14 present.
Okay, please stand, and we're joined tonight by Pastor Larry Engel of the 5 Points Lutheran Church, who will give us our invocation. Remain standing. Clerk Kalish will then lead us in the pledge.
God's justice and mercy. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Richland County. Help us to act this night with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be leaders of your people in need. And help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. Renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Engel. Sure you're going to stay for the entire meetings? I appreciate it. Just for the good parts. Okay. We have a 28-point agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Manning, seconded by Mr. Cosgrove. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. The October 24th meeting seems like a long time ago. We didn't have a meeting in November. Does anyone have any issues with the minutes as published? If not, I'm going to declare them approved as published. Move on. Number 6, public comments. Do we have anyone who wants to, from the public, wants to comment? Mr. Perry.
Mr. Chair, I've been frequenting the Simon Center for the last several months, and the streets out there are horrible. They need some patchwork. I don't know if it's the county's bailiwick or not, but I'm sure we're going to lose a car in there pretty soon.
Well, we just resurfaced that, Rod, not too long ago, but yeah.
This would be the road going in. So, yeah.
Okay.
The parking lot itself is fine, but getting in and out is not so good.
Write that down.
I'll add it to our list. We all have a list.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. Number 7, confirmation of department head appointments, Highway Commissioner and Pine Valley Community Village Director.
All right, so we'll take Highway Commissioner first. Per statute, because this board has appointing authority, the Highway Commissioner will need to be appointed every 2 years. So we are asking for you to confirm the appointment of Joshua Elder as our Highway Commissioner. As you all know, he does an outstanding job, and we want to make sure that he stays with us.
I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Gutschel, seconded by McKee. All those in favor of the appointment of Mr. Elder as Highway Commissioner, or the continuing role of highway commissioner.
Mr. Chair, so I've got a correction here. It
Okay,
should be Pine Valley Administrator, not Director. Those are different.
okay. Well, right now we're on the highway commissioner, so we'll vote on that.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? Congratulations, Josh. Pine Valley Community Village
Administrator.
Administrator.
And that is the position for which we hired. We held interviews both in person with a committee of Pine Valley members and an outside nursing home administrator, Wanda Plachecki from La Crosse, who was invaluable in evaluating our candidates. We then also had a meet and greet with the department managers from Pine Valley, and Supervisor Seep and Supervisor Boyce attended at that time as well. And in polling the interview committee and in hearing some feedback from the staff, it was decided to offer the position to Shaponda Jimerson. And she has verbally accepted the position pending confirmation this evening with an offer letter to follow, stating that an offer will be made contingent upon successful passage of background checks and all necessary employment vetting. So,
Looking for a motion? Mr. Renish, seconded by Julie Fleming.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you may. Barb Voice is asking a question.
Trustees were supposed to vote on this first.
No.
Not in our current structure under the county administrator. Now, in the past, we have done it using the board of, it was called the Board of Trustees then. That has also changed. And we've used committees. But since the administrator, when Clint came in 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we haven't done it then.
I was thinking of the old fashioned.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah,
Isn't that by statute?
yes, the way
You
to
should
do
need to
it now,
explain the real legal reason.
yes.
So because it's an administrative form of government, the administrator has most of the appointment authority. Any appointment made by the county administrator then needs to be confirmed by the board. There is no part of that process currently that involves a committee step in between.
that is why I felt it was important to engage committee members in the interview process, though, so that there was adequate feedback.
And she's gonna start the 18th, is that right?
Pending approval.
I have a question as well. Looking at her resume, it said that her Wisconsin license was in progress. Has she gotten her license?
Per the job description, they have 6 months after hire to get their license. So she's just waiting on her result at this time. And she has been calling, saying, okay, come on, it should be, it's due any day now. So she's anxiously awaiting that, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
I have one more thing.
Yes, Barb.
I was at that meet and greet, and unless, if you haven't met her, she is an amazing woman. She just excites you when you hear her talking. So I think that either one of the candidates would have been excellent. But, choice is Candace's, and she's the fine. Hopefully she'll stay.
Good to hear. Anyone else? All those in favor of this appointment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We have a new administrator at Pine Valley Community Village. And she goes by Ann, does she not?
Well, now the last time I spoke with her, she used Shaponda, so we will ask her which she prefers. I know in the interview process, she said Ann, but
Shaponda Ann Jimerson.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. Brings us to Bill. Are you there, Bill Moyleen?
I am here. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Audit report.
Yes.
Take it away, sir.
Okay. Everybody should have an electronic copy of the presentation. It's a long agenda tonight, so I'll try to keep this as brief as an accountant can. Page 2, audit overview. We completed our audit for the Richland County for the year ended December 31st, 2022, and issued an unmodified opinion. That's the desired opinion. States we believe the financial statements are free from any material misstatement. Our opinion on the report is presented in a bound document that was delivered, and it's the first few pages of the financial statement document electronically. The scope of our audit included all funds and activities of the county, the government funds, the enterprise fund, Pine Valley Community Village, and the internal service fund, the highway department. A separate audit and exit conference was held with the Pine Valley Community Village. A separate audit communication document designed specifically for county board has also been submitted and should be reviewed by county board members. And then lastly, we also prepared the regulatory report for 2022 that was filed with the Department of Revenue, the Municipal Financial Report, Form A, and a separate opinion report was prepared for Pine Valley. Financial highlights: the county's 2022 government funds total fund balance increased by $349,000. The general fund, which is a primary operating fund of the county, increased by $1,134,000. The general fund's total fund balance was $8,175,000 at December 31st, and that represents about 5 months of expenditures. Tax certificates, which is the largest receivable balance that the county reports, was $479,000 at the end of the year, compared to $554,000 in the prior year. Countywide sales tax revenue was $1,526,000 in 2022, which was slightly more than the prior year at $1,491,000. During our audit, we tested the compliance with state-imposed tax levy limits, and the county is in compliance. There were no long-term debt issuances during 2022. The county made scheduled debt principal and interest payments. Pine Valley Community Village reported an operating revenue of $9.6 million, operating loss of $306,000. That loss is offset by property tax levy of $976,000 and supplemental payments of $570,000. Page 4 is the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balance for the government funds. The county reports 2 major funds, the general fund and the debt service fund. All other funds, government related, are reported in aggregate and shown as non-major. Total revenues were $22,648,000. Total expense was $22,229,000. So that was an excess of revenues over expenses of $349,000. So fund balance increased from $8,254,000 to $8,603,000. Page 5, budget comparison schedule for the general fund. Total budgeted revenues were $18,997,000. Actual revenues were $20,524,000. That was a favorable difference of just over $1.5 million, primarily driven by intergovernmental grants that were received related to expenses that also offset those revenues. Total budgeted expense was $19,291,000. Actual expense, $19,382,000. So that was an unfavorable difference of $91,000. There was a small transfer to other funds, non-major. So general fund total fund balance increased from $7,041,000, by 1.1 million to 8,175,000. Fund balance on page 6. The county reports 4 types of fund balance, ranging from most restricted to least restricted, top to bottom. Non-spendable fund balance represents fund balance that is not expected to be converted quickly to cash or has already been spent. And that's made up of tax certificates and tax deeds receivable, materials and supplies, and prepayments. Total non-spendable fund balance was $645,000. Restricted fund balance is required to be spent on specific purposes. Total restricted was $399,850. Assigned fund balance are amounts that are set aside by county board or administration. Total assigned fund balance was $28,000, and unassigned represents everything else that's not for specific purposes. $7,529,000, or 87% of total fund balance. Page 7, government funds 2022 revenues. Just some cash flow comments. The property taxes, which makes up 39% of total revenue, are primarily collected in January, February, and then in July. Total taxes were $8,799,000. Intergovernmental revenues, 37% of total revenues at $8.4 million. Most significant most significant intergovernmental revenues are your shared taxes, which about 95% of that comes in November. And then health and human services payments that are paid to the county monthly or quarterly based on contract at $2,055,000. Other revenues were public charges for services, 20%, miscellaneous at $600,000, and licenses, permits, penalties, and forfeitures at $270,000. Property taxes. Over the 6 years presented, property taxes have increased approximately 25%. The increase from 2019 to 2020 is primarily driven by long-term debt required payments. Taxes receivable balances, page 9. We've been trending downward. In 2021, total taxes receivable was $554,000, and in 2022 that decreased to $479,000. That just means that we have less in delinquent taxes receivable, so we've been collecting our taxes on a more timely basis. Trend in equalized value of property. The county valuation over the last 8 years increased by approximately 43%. Surrounding counties experience similar growth. It might not look exactly the same, but we've seen growth patterns similar to this at other counties like Richland. Sales tax revenue, page 11. We've been trending upward again with sales tax. Like other Wisconsin counties, Richland uses the 0.5% sales tax to limit property tax increases. In 2021, total sales tax revenue was just under 1.5 million. And in 2022, it was just over 1.5 million. And to date, the county has received sales tax payments for the months of January through September. And in that period in 2022, we had received 1.1 million. And in 2023, we received 1.2 million. So another slight uptick compared to the prior year for sales taxes. Governmental fund 2022 expenditures on page 12. Fairly standard for government funds for 2020 for expenses. With the exception of capital outlay, the county was able to use some of its long-term debt proceeds in capital projects funds in the current year on vehicle purchases, roof replacements, and the radio tower project had begun in 2022. Statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position for the proprietary funds. Pine Valley Community Village, net change in net position was an increase of 763,000. So net position increased from 3,044,000 up to 3,808,000. The Highway Internal Service Fund decreased net position by 518,000. Net position went from 5.9 million to 5.4 million. Changes in long-term obligations. There were no long-term debt issuances during 2022, just scheduled payments of principal of 940,000 and amortization of bond premium of 27,000. So we started the year with 5,949,000 outstanding in long-term debt. We made 940,000 of principal payments. That left 4.9 million outstanding at the end of the year. Other liabilities are leases payable for the highway department and vested compensated absences for time off owed to employees. Business type activities is the Pine Valley Community Village section of the long-term debt. 17,980,000 at the beginning of the year, scheduled payments of 965,000, and 17,015,000 remaining at the end of the year. The total general obligation debt limit is 76 million. Debt subject to that limit is the 21,865,000. So the county has about 72% of its total debt capacity remaining. Overall, the audit, fieldwork process, and conclusion, working with Derek and Tammy and the Treasurer's Office and Human Services goes very well. So I want to give thanks to those staff that we work with. I know it gets chaotic when we're there, but we really do appreciate their patience and help when we need information and things like that. Any questions on the financial statements or the presentation?
Questions? Mr. Moyleen? Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, and then there was another report there. Our administrator, wasn't there?
Yeah, I can give a brief update. So there are a lot of moving parts right now, as you all well know, between hiring and the campus and our year end and transitioning into our new benefits year, new payroll year, new wages, all of those things. So we are very, very busy. We will be interviewing for the HR position on Tuesday. I have 3 candidates set up. 4th hopefully will contact me, but looking forward to that. Finance director, at this point, we have 3 candidates that have applied. I will set up those interviews and we may need to re-advertise, truthfully. Not a lot of governmental experience outside of 1 internal candidate. And I was really hoping to get more broad candidates, but in speaking with John, there are counties looking to hire him to do recruitment for a finance director. So this is not something that was unanticipated at this point. So we're working through that. We do have someone that is temporarily working out at the fairgrounds, cleaning things up. It was a surprise, needless to say, the level of disorganization and record keeping that we've run into. So she is streamlining all of that. She's going through all of the paperwork, all of the invoices, all of the items that we have out there. She's organizing them by year. And then we're going to work through what needs to be retained, what we can get rid of, and then set up a new process for whoever comes in to take over after that. So Shelby's doing a great job. She's just hired as a temporary individual. She's working between 18 to 20 hours a week, sometimes not even that, but it really is helping because I don't have the time to get out there and go through those items. So
But
that's,
you did go out there and park campers.
I did go out there, Josh and I made it through storage. So yes, we did do 2 weekends of storage and most of our buildings are full. And I think we made about as much money as we did last year. So it was successful for not knowing what we were doing at all. It was a good collaborative effort. So, and I appreciate that. Huh? Liability waivers are signed from everybody. Yes. So that's going extremely well. Cheryl Dull's last day will be Friday. She is retiring. And so we will be contracting with Vernon County. We met with them last week. And so his name is Matthew Albright. He's the zoning administrator for Vernon County. He will be here 2 to 3 days a week. And then will be available for phone calls or any other items as needed. Jackie Nix, who formerly worked in the zoning office, who is now working in the treasury office, has actually offered to step up and help if we need help in the interim with things. And Kathy Cooper and her staff are going to also be experiencing some cross training. So that'll give us time to iron out what we want that department to really look like and make a hire. And that way our constituents will not suffer in any way, shape, or form. They'll have somebody who's knowledgeable and able to assist. So that's worked out really well. A big thank you to Ashley Oliphant. She is who I reached out to, knowing she was formerly a zoning administrator, and right away she put me in contact with Vernon. So it's our first big city-county partnership move, and it worked out extremely well. So a big thank you to her. We have been meeting with the city and the school district on a pretty regular basis, just to establish relationships and explore ways that we can work together. We're also looking to reignite the city-county ad hoc committee meetings. I think that would be a very positive step. We have an opportunity to potentially look at a city-county zoning office going forward. Not saying we will do it, not saying we won't, but at least it's an opportunity to have that conversation and evaluate that opportunity. So we'll be looking to do that. And yeah, things are just going along. It's never a dull moment. There's always something new. And I continue to be extremely grateful for the wonderful staff that we have here in our county. We have a lot of very, very hardworking staff. And every day they make being here a pleasure. So that's my update.
Okay, do you have any questions on administrator? Okay, correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
The Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission published their 2023 annual report, so that is in your guys' folder for review.
Okay. Okay, number 10, an ordinance relating to parcel belonging to Kelly Klitsky, Tammy Meyer, and Amy Demers in the town of Buena Vista. Mr. Kalish.
So the ordinance number 23-27, amendment number 587 to Richland County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance number 5, that the following described 34.59 acre parcel belonging to Kelly Klitsky, Tammy Meyer, and Amy Demers in the town of Buena Vista is hereby rezoned from general ag and forestry to ag and residential district. This ordinance shall be effective December 12th of 2023 and is offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on November 6th of 23.
Thank you. You've heard the ordinance. What's your pleasure? Mr. Manning makes the motion, seconded by Mr. Williamson, Mr. Williamson.
I have back.
Linda does.
What? You have a question?
Oh, she has-
She's backed up.
You have background. Oh, thank you.
I have
Glad we have
background.
background. Give us some background, please.
They are rezoning all 35 acres so they can sell approximately 30 of those, and they're gonna keep the remainder.
Okay. All right, you've heard the background. All those in favor of this ordinance relating to this parcel, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ordinance is adopted. An ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to Rich and Diane McCullough in the town of Buena Vista. Baelish.
This will be ordinance number 23-28, amendment number 588 to zoning ordinance number 5, that the 2.0 acre parcel belonging to Rich and Diane McCall in the town of Buena Vista is rezoned from residential 2 district to residential 1 district, again effective December 12th, 23, and offered to by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on November 6th of 23.
Okay, you've heard the ordinance. What's your pleasure? McKee, second. Ms. Fleming. Background?
They intend to deed some of the land to their daughter to put a mobile home on. The only zoning district that allows for a mobile home is residential 1, and the township did approve having the mobile home.
All right. You've heard the background, you've heard the ordinance. What's your pleasure? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, ordinance is adopted. An ordinance relating, number 12, ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to Michael and Beverly Burns in the town of Dayton, Mr. Kalis.
Ordinance number 23-29, amendment number 589 to zoning ordinance number 5, that the following described 18.38 acre parcel belonging to Michael and Beverly Burns in the town of Dayton is rezoned from general ag and forestry to ag residential district. Again, effective December 12th and offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on November 27th of 23.
You've heard the ordinance. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
And we'll let you second, Mr. C. Thank you. All right, background.
So Mike and Bev bought this property on a land contract in April of 1992, and it should have been rezoned at that time. But it wasn't. In the spring of 2023, as we know, the house burned down, and Mike plans to rebuild the house. And when applying for the permits, it was discovered that incorrect zoning. So this is to correct that zoning so the house can be rebuilt.
All right. All those in favor of this ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance relating to a parcel number 13, parcel relating to a parcel belonging to Koenig Industries in the town of Willow, Mr. Kalish.
Ordinance number 23-30, amendment number 590 to zoning ordinance number 5, the described 3.00 acre parcel belonging to Koenig Industries in the town of Willow is hereby rezoned from general ag and forestry to residential 2 district, again effective December 12th and offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on November 27th of 23.
You've heard the ordinance. What's your pleasure? Mr. Williamson, second by Julie Fleming. Do we have background?
Yeah, they're selling the farmland for farming, and they're selling the house and buildings to the tenant that's lived there for years, it says. We didn't know how long.
Something we see time to time. Okay, all those in favor of this ordinance, zoning ordinance, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
The ordinance is adopted. Report on petitions for zoning amendments received since the last county board session.
There are 2 rezonings going to the Land and Zoning Committee in January. One is in Eagle Township and one in Henrietta.
And anything
There's no.
recommended for denial? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gentis, for standing in. Number 16, a resolution authorizing the Land Record Office to apply for and receive a grant from the Wisconsin Land Records Board. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 23-112. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to the Land Records Office to apply for and receive a Wisconsin Land Records Board grant totaling $88,160, with the work to be completed not any later than December 31 of 2025. Be it further resolved that approval is hereby granted for the grant funds to be spent according to the terms of the grant and for the following uses. $68,913 towards completion of statutorily required benchmarks to create a statewide digital map. $18,247 to develop, maintain, and operate a basic land information system and for the implementation of Richland County's land information plan, and $1,000 for educational and training purposes. Be it further resolved that the county administrator is hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the county any such documents as may be necessary to carry out the resolution, and that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This is being offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on November 27 of 2023.
You heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. McKee, seconded by Ms. Gentis. Some background here.
This is a 2-year grant that's applied for yearly. And the grant must fulfill the requirements in the land information.
So something we do.
Yeah.
All right,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
what is the total amount of the grant request? I didn't see that.
$88,160.
Did you catch that, Don? 88,160.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All those in favor of allowing this grant to proceed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, got it. The resolution accepting a proposal for wage and compensation study with us tonight from Daniel Drown Associates, David Drown, I can't read my own.
He might have a brother named Daniel.
David Drown Associates is Essa Melva. And she's here to present.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Can I stand or?
you may start. Whatever.
Perfect. I sat quite a bit, so I'll stand. So you can go to the next slide and the next slide. I'm here tonight just to kind of give a little background about who we are, the kind of the options you have, and to talk just like briefly kind of what class and comp means and kind of decision points for the board and any of that. But this is your presentation, so at any point ask questions, don't wait until the end. This is me. I lead class and comp for David Drown. I have 15 years of city and county government experience before coming over. Former city administrator, also worked in the county, and I have a doctorate in public administration. So a little bit about David Drown. He was a civil engineer by trade, and then he started David Drown on the financial side, doing bond sales, TIF districting, and economic development. And then 8 years ago, we kind of created HR because our clients came to us and said, we need help with class and comp, org studies, executive recruitment, and we've just kind of grown since then. I always say that we're different than most consultants because we've all been in city and counties, meaning we understand the role that they play, the customization, the service levels, rather than just kind of never being there, but always working on the outside. And just for like the HR piece of it, so we do market analysis, class and comp, executive recruitment, org studies, and then in Minnesota, the Association of Minnesota Counties has a technical program that if a county calls in with an HR question, they get our staff to answer it. So it's kind of like if you need help on a policy or something like that, there's a technical program that helps with that. And just a little bit about the firm. I don't want to get into too much of the fluff, but I always say, and I really don't mean this to be salesy, is that we really customize it to the client. So you're not going to get what somebody else got, and we want to make sure it works for you. So as a former administrator, nothing more frustrating than when a consultant comes in and says, here's your information, good luck, you're on your own, or here's your information, this is how you should do it, now we're leaving. Like, there should be that discussion. So I always want to make sure what we do is what you want to do, how you want to do it, and when you want to do it. Go next, sorry. I know you saw this, so I don't want to take up a lot of your time on that. And this, you know, I think the big part of it is common sense approach and how we created it. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. Is I'm not someone that's only done class and comp my entire life. I was a city and county administrator, and I wanted to have an approach that helped governments do class and comp. And one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit is the ongoing maintenance program. And we created it because I always think of it in One of my favorite departments, I'm not gonna lie, is the highway department. I always think of it as the pavement improvement plan. So every year you look at your roads and you do small adjustments like seal coating, crack filling, and that to maintain them, right? Because they're so expensive to do a total reconstruct. Well, your employees are your greatest asset, but they're your most expensive piece. So we really created ongoing maintenance that's doesn't cost governments that much money, but then we're constantly looking at data and your jobs and your classifications and how you pay to make sure that it meets your pay philosophy, it meets your budget duties. And instead of saying, oh my God, that was so painful, let's not do this for 10 years, then coming and having a huge wage gap, we do minimal changes every year so you don't have that. And I just think that's a better way of doing it. And we find that like going into negotiations, it helps. But just with employees, if I know that you're looking at my job description, wages and whatever, I feel better. I might not get it right away, but I just think that that approach is better, and it came from just working with clients and knowing, hey, we want to do this, but we can't afford it. Okay, so what can you afford, and let's work backwards. Next. We have over 50 county clients, we have 80 city clients, and then 40 JPs, so like like correctional facilities, police, housing authorities, soil and water conservations. We have some in North Dakota, most of ours are in Minnesota. We do some work in Wisconsin, not in the class and comp, but I was born in Wisconsin, so I kind of feel happy about coming back. So I'm in Clark County, Wisconsin, so Greenwood. Next. So why do we want to work? You know, I always say that as former practitioners, it's easier to come in. I understand Candace's role, but I also understand your role. And as a taxpayer, I understand that too. So again, working to make sure that we can provide practical solution. I have a colleague who used to work at a large consulting firm. And I asked him, I said, you know, how many studies did you complete? And he said only about a third. So they were fine with coming in and taking money and not finishing the work because people got frustrated with them. And I just think that is ridiculous. Like, I will say, will your project scope change? Yeah, that's okay. But I want to continue working with you long term. I don't want it to be like, oh, there's Tessa and she's gone. We won't see her for 10 years. I want it to be ongoing. So I just think that we're a little bit different, and working with that, working with all of you, staff.
Stop.
Did I get too close there?
No, you're good, you're good, you're good. It's on.
Sorry. Now there's none.
Should we go down?
Perfect. Okay, and you can change the slide.
Sorry.
And I kind of talked about this. What sets us apart is implementation. So it doesn't have to happen overnight. It happens at your pace, and then multiple scopes. So I always think when I'm talking to the board is what matters to them. When do they get to make decisions? Kind of the milestones of the project. And then once you do, like if you're doing a market analysis, letting the data tell the story, but then you deciding what does that mean and how do we want to move forward? Versus me just saying, this is where you are, this is the cost, do it. It has to be that conversation. And I think that's what really sets us apart is it doesn't have to happen overnight, but making smaller steps, that's part of the process. You can go next. So looking at this is kind of why do you do this is one, you want to look at gradual changes in duties performed. So like job descriptions, are they up to date? Changes in organizational relationships and responsibilities. So who's reporting to who? If you have any recruitment or retention issues, we want to address those. Why is that? What is happening? And then the last piece is budgeting. I think it's important when you're doing this study to figure out this year, but then how does this impact next year and the years after? So kind of planning for some of this so that it's not a surprise. Next. This is kind of the high level. What does it mean? Classification of jobs So is that internal equity? So it's only based off of the job description. It's about the position, what's needed for the job, not the people in it. That's how you're classifying jobs. And then the compensation is the pay grid or wages or policies of how the board wants to pay employees. So do you have step increases? How many years is it to the top? All of those things is part of that comp plan. And I always say your comp plan is calibrated with updated job descriptions, looking internally at how our jobs align with their duties, responsibilities, budgets, all of that. And then the last part is that classification of them to make sure that it all works out. Just some things that I'm sure aren't surprising to anyone, but I always like to just give a little information is, you know, what are we seeing in the market? We do class and comp kind of all over. We also do executive recruitment is, you know, early retirements. People are leaving early, retiring. Some people are just leaving the public sector and saying, I'm done. A lot more than we had anticipated. With that is that career change. So before 20, 30 years was kind of the norm. That is not the norm right now. Labor shortage. So when you had an application pool, it used to be maybe 20 or 30, and maybe now you're seeing 10, and of that 10, you only have 5 that are qualified. That's just a lot smaller. Increase in work from home options for some individuals, that's important. The shortage in the specialized training. So anything that requires certification, a technical education, or licensure is even harder to get. So like deputies, you know, nurses, all of those things that are specialized, even like appraisers and those, it's just harder to get than normal. And part of that is the last one is that entry retail positions. What used to be, you know, 12 to 13, 14, $15 an hour is now pushing 18, 19, 20, maybe up to 24. And that's then causing everyone else to kind of adjust accordingly as well. So again, I said the job classifications are really about that job description. I'm not going to go through all of these. I understand your system. We actually work with the same system in other entities. We work with about 13 different classification systems because my philosophy is if it's not broke, why change it? So we reverse our engineer way into other people's systems. I would never sell the system. I'm not claiming it as my own. We have 2 of our own that we use, but if it's working for you, I just say keep using it because then it kind of provides that consistent background. But the big thing with when you're looking at a job description, again, it's about the position and not the person. And I always say, as a city administrator, I have a doctorate degree, not required, so I'm never going to get paid at that level. And I shouldn't because it's not required of the job duty. I'm also a TIG welder, so I welded for Harley Davidson. I can fix a snowplow, but very few city administrators probably can. So you wouldn't pay me for that, or you would round hole square peg your way out of candidates. So that's what's different is we all bring different things to the job, but the job description and the classification, I always say should be as if everyone wins the lottery and we have to hire for tomorrow. So in looking at that, you look at the qualifications needed for the job, licensures, decision-making, how that impacts accountability, the budget, problem solving, if they supervise, relationships, so who do they communicate, what are they communicating, effort, both mental and physical, and then conditions of the head. So that's what I look at in the position. I'm not going and saying, well, I really like this person, but I don't like you. Not about the people or even about the performance. That's a whole nother issue we can get into on another night. But my job is to look at the job description. Next. So when I write a proposal, I kind of put it into 5 different categories, and you can pick one. We do that and be done. You can pick one, say, wow, okay, that's where it was. Now we want to add on. This is, you choose what you need. I'm not going to sell you something you don't need. So the first one is just to do a market analysis. So you would say, these are our benchmarks that we would like to look at. For counties, we usually say counties and cities that are, I always say benchmarks are in your region, so kind of who hugs you. It could be who is like you. So maybe you have a jail of X number of beds and you want to make sure you're looking at that, or you look at county roads, miles, how, those can be indicators. So it doesn't always have to be in your region, but maybe someone that's like you. We also do what I call a spotlight. We wouldn't average them in to the mix, but we watch them. So if you have a county that's next to you, but is 10 times your size, we don't want to average it in. We know they pay more, but we just kind of want to see where we are to them. So like the city of Rochester, Minnesota, very large. Casson has 5,000 people, very different, but they used them as a spotlight because they wanted to see where they were, and they found their entry-level positions were right in line, but their department heads were very different. And they should be, because Rochester's department is a department of 60 versus a department of 1 or 2. So those are some things to think about when we look at the market analysis. The second option is to do a market analysis, and then we say, here's the data, we have that conversation, where do you want to be? And then kind of give some recalibration options or things that you can do. The third one is the market, the recalibration, but then we cost it out per employee. So per employee, per union, you tell us how you want it divided. We kind of break down the cost. The fourth option is ongoing maintenance. So this is what we created for governments. It's to say, you know what, that fifth option, the full class and comp study, from rewriting all job descriptions to classifying them to doing the market to recalibrating the cost. That's a lot for us to take. We don't want to spend that much money. We don't want to do that much work in year one. We break it down saying we would like to work with you for 3 years to do that. So we look at your jobs and say, we're going to do this third year 1, this third year 2, this third year 3. Another reason to do that is let the market tell you where you are, and then surgically go in and fix what you need to fix, and fix it in your calendar versus somebody else telling you, hey, we need this and this is how it needs to look. So you can do any of those options separately, or you can say, after the market analysis, you know what, we would like you to recalibrate. We just want to see where we are. So you don't have to choose, we'll come back. You can do a full class and comp study if you want to do all of it in 1 year, or you can start kind of in that ongoing maintenance that says, let's just look at the market and then we're going to just focus in on a third of the job descriptions. Does that make sense? I know there's 5 options. I don't try to do it to be confusing, but I want you to pay for what you need, or let the data tell you what you need.
One of the
Yeah.
things that we had a previous firm
Mhm.
that we're currently with, and they came in and did similar things.
Sure.
But from the get-go, the problem was we couldn't fund it. And it was kind of doomed to failure because of lack of funding. And then one of the criticisms I had from early on was that it didn't seem to have a mechanism in showing people how to progress. In other words, you're in this job and you're stuck here forever. There is no, and maybe that's the reality of county government. I don't know, but I came from a huge company, and we had all sorts of career paths that were available.
For sure.
And I don't know if you can build that into our system or not, but it would be nice.
You totally can, and I would say that's a great point. Of one of the things we're seeing, like, I'm just going to use law enforcement. In the past, deputies were hired because they were licensed, and they get stuck there and they kind of stay there. Well, they're probably one of your harder jobs to recruit and retain for a lot of reasons right now. I like the career ladder that after 5 years they can move, or whatever you decide that is. They have to be in good standing, all of those things. Why? The more they get, the more complex cases they can handle, the better that they can do their job, all of the above. I would say if you can grow someone in place, way better and way cheaper. The cost of not doing this, there is a cost. You can say, wow, nope, not going to do anything. If you lose someone, that's about a $30,000 cost a year. If they have overtime like a deputy, that could be $60,000. So there is a cost of not doing it. I think career letters are great. The market is definitely, we're seeing a lot in deputies, correctional offices, especially like land services, certifications, those type of things. But also just to keep people in the county, their human capital is priceless. Than losing someone and saying there's 40 years down the drain, good luck, now we have to figure that out. So that definitely can be worked in with job descriptions, with your grades and all of that. So that's a great question.
Anyone else? Must be some.
Well, I had employees for 30 years, and this is my first term on the board when I came on. My perception was, how are we keeping anybody from overpaying? And I still feel that today. It's kind of embarrassing, actually. So we need to do something. And what I've seen from the current people, they have no idea what's going on in Richland County or the hub, as you call it, the surrounding counties.
Sure.
They're not, it's not realistic numbers.
Sure, and I think, so one of the questions is how do we like get our data maybe? I don't know if that's a question, but what we do that's different is we don't do, I'm just gonna call it a long comprehensive survey where they say we're gonna take these 15 jobs and we're gonna benchmark them and send out this survey for someone in HR to complete. I go to the counties you pick and the cities and say, can I have your roster? Meaning, can I have all of your positions, all of your titles, min and max? What does that allow me to do? I know your whole org chart. I can draw it out for you. So I could say in Vernon County, this is how their highway department looks, and here's how they pay. You don't have these two positions, you know what I mean? So you can do a lot more. And we get about 95, 98% response rate because it's super easy to send me a spreadsheet and let me do the work than fill out a survey. So that's our biggest difference is, and we collect data on every single job versus only saying that these 15 are the ones that we're going to look at and then recalibrate it from there. I'm not saying that that approach is wrong, but I think ours is better because it's efficient and we get better data. So we find that even when we work with like Iowa and whatever, they are very happy to send a spreadsheet and then we can look at it and analyze it and follow up if we have questions or gaps. So I think that maybe hopefully answers your question of how we get data and then looking at it to make sure it is apples to apples. Titles don't always mean the same thing, and I get that. But when you can look at that org chart, it really helps you line up, here is the highway department. And oh, look at, they have 2 more jobs here. Well, that's why this position is here and it's different. It really allows you to look at the org structure in addition to how they pay.
So Candace and I and some others have talked sometimes. Not everybody's motivated by money. So in your plan, you consider increasing the vacation time and.
Sure, we would definitely look at that and help you with that. I would say.
In comparison to other counties too?
Sure, yeah, and we'll collect that and kind of with that. I would say, please let me do stuff that's measurable because it's really hard if you say, can you look at how they have their health insurance? Because no health insurance plan is the same. But you could say, do they have a VS, a health savings or vacation or whatever that is tangible, that we definitely can do. And I'm just gonna say, I have a county, they have 1 million benefits I think that they offer. That's great, but if nobody uses them, who cares? And when I was the younger me, I didn't care about health insurance. Now that I have 3 kids, I'm really concerned about it because my deductible gets shot really fast. So that's, so everyone is coming in at different.
Yeah, I used to offer a matching 401k and employees wouldn't take it.
Because they want the money today.
They're getting 3%. I know. Like,
Yeah, I know. Oh, if my younger me knew what I know. Yeah.
So you comparing local counties.
Yep.
Okay, so you're from Minnesota and are you using Minnesota too, or are you just gonna be doing?
If you want us to, we definitely can.
That wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah, because it just works differently. That's why I say it's better I always say you pick your benchmarks. If you do like any utility rate studies, or if you have arbitration that set your group, you know who you look like or who you act like, it might be different. So if you tell me these are the 14 counties in Wisconsin, that's who I will use. If you say industry is a huge thing, we would like a little bit of private sector data in there. Not that we're going to use it as market average, but to show you some of the entry-level positions or admin assistant, we can pull that from an ERI survey data, but I would only use what you tell me to use because you know yourself better. If you say we don't know where to start, I will then start pulling indicators like population, tax capacity, tax rate, and say, here's what I found. This is who I think looks like you and acts like you. That's who I would, but I would never do a study unless it was the benchmarks were approved by the board. Because I don't want you in the end saying, hey, why didn't you think of these 2 counties? I want you to be part of that process.
And to piggyback off of that, when you have areas of specialty that not every county has, Tessa will go out and find places that do. So our nursing home is a great example.
Yep.
Not every county has nursing homes, but she will use a combination of private and publicly owned to make sure that we're getting all the data to ensure that everybody that's there is being paid adequately according to the market. In the jail I worked in before, or I didn't work in the jail, but the jail that we had in the county before, we had ICE inmates. Very few counties had ICE inmates. Tessa made a point of going out and finding institutions that had ICE inmates so that we were adequately measuring, because there is a huge difference in the way you have to operate your jail and the requirements due to those ICE inmates. So she does that work. She goes out, she finds those comparables to make sure that we really are getting accurate data to build our base off of. We've talked a lot about this, rebuilding from the ground up. Well, this is our rebuilding from the ground up on how we pay and why we pay. And she does do that work. I've seen it.
Now with that, will everyone be happy? No. Because not everyone is going to probably get the same, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, we try to do our best to make sure we give you the information you need to make decisions. And to your point, it's representative of who you look like and who you act like. So that you're not using data that just doesn't match.
Well, I'm familiar with Wisconsin as the Department of Workforce Development,
Sure.
and I was a plumber, so they set the plumbing wages for like state jobs funded.
Yeah,
And it can vary by $10 an hour from here to Vernon County.
sure.
So you factor in, you look at stuff like that.
Sure, if we did-
Information's already there.
Yeah, so like when we pull like ERI data, which is Economic Research Institute, we'll actually tier it by levels. So like here's a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, kind of buy those and see which one best would fit and fits within your region and all of that scope. So I have a team of 2 other that just do data and they help me like organize it. I love data and I love all of that. So we'll present it to you in multi ways, like line graphs, and we pull then on an analysis tab, like you have 122 positions. We found more than 5, so what we would call statistically significant data for 70 of those positions. And here's where it is. The other ones, we still have data, but if it's a position that only has 1 match, I'm not going to say that's what you should pay them. What we do is we start with those 70 that match and then recalibrate it based on internal equity and all of that.
You mentioned your team. On the 130 clients you have, how much staff do you have?
So we have 5 that work directly with class and comp, and then we have 5 others that help us. So, I mean, we are able to do more with less because of the way we work, because we literally pull in all of that right now. We're gathering for next year, all of that roster data. So we have, I don't know, 40,000 lines of data.
The data you gather you can use for most of your clients.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And so, we'll pull it and we'll tell you like, hey, we just contacted Vernon County and they're not helping us get their data. Can you, because you might know someone there, do it? Then we'll also give them a summary if they want it, like, hey, here's what we found. We're not going to give them everything that we just did for you, but we would give them some incentive to do that. So,
They just did a massive recalibration,
okay, perfect.
like 2 years ago or a year ago.
And right now it's a snowball effect. One does it, then you have to do it. I mean,
We have to do it.
it's just a volatile market right now, and someone says, well, when will it end? If I knew that, I definitely wouldn't be doing this job, I would be doing something else.
Thank you for being here. We have a lengthy agenda.
Yeah, no,
I'm going to ask Clerk Kalish to read the resolution at this time. If you
Well-
stay,
Are we gonna have a discussion on this privately?
we're going to have a resolution. This was forwarded by the Finance and Personnel
Yeah,
Committee.
well, okay.
Please.
So this will be resolution number 23-113. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval to enter into the agreement with David Brown Associates for a full classification and compensation study with annual maintenance. Be it further resolved that the resolution is effective upon passing publication, and this is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on November 7 of 2023.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Renish makes the motion, seconded by Mr. McKee. Discussion. Yes.
I didn't go to finance, so I just needed some answers. So was it 5 years ago we did this study completely?
I think it was.
2018.
Yeah, that's what I thought, 5 years ago. And we did a complete study and we still had follow-up, I like what you're doing. We have follow-up and we go through. And of course, we had disagreements why was the nursing home people getting more money, and all those kinds of things. So I just have questions because I agree that our salaries haven't been as good as we want, but we couldn't pay what they recommended anyway, so we had to stay at a certain tier. And then and now we can't pay anymore. So why are we, when we already have a recent study, and why are we doing this again? I just don't understand why.
Because the study that we have has not been maintained and it is inherently flawed. Because of the fact that it wasn't implemented fully at the base level and it wasn't equally maintained for everyone. So what happened was certain departments would submit for reclassification over and over and over and keep their people, getting raises. Others never ever did. So they're still at a 2018 wage while other people have moved on. The other interesting thing is when I had a call with the company we're currently with, they aren't using new data. They're using the data that was collected in 2018 and then updating it with a random survey here and there. And then when I asked a very specific question about the ambulance service, I found out they didn't go out and find any data on ambulance services. So it was flawed from the beginning. The way it's been handled has been flawed. Not everyone has been given the same opportunity to ensure that their job description is updated, that it's submitted for reclassification, that it's maintained in the way that it should be, and that we're keeping up with the market. And as Tessa explained, in doing a study now, we don't know what we can and can't pay because we don't know how far off we are and in how many jobs. But this is where it's really helpful to have her work through an implementation plan with us. Maybe we can't do everything all at once, but can we take the people that are 25% below market and adjust them first? And then maybe take the people that are 10% below market and adjust them. Or, there are a million different ways to do it. And that's where we have to work with Tessa, looking at our budget, looking at our capabilities to then decide, okay, what is the best way for us, Richland County, to implement a wage study that brings people up and gets us to where we need to be within the market? And then when the annual maintenance comes in, that's where it's really key. Because again, when you do these studies and you either don't implement them fully, or you wait another 20 years to do one again, you're so far off the mark that you're talking hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars to right the ship. Whereas if you're doing this every single year, you're taking very small bites at the apple and you're keeping everybody in line with the market as you go. And instead of it being $500,000, it might be $5,000 to make that adjustment. And it's a blip in the budget. It's something you don't even see really. And so once you get on that rotation, it keeps us within the market, year after year after year. And we won't be in the position we're in now where we have all this compression. We have people that are required to have a master's degree getting same pay as somebody who's required to have no degree at all and a simple certification. And we have that now. Master's degree level people are being paid the same as someone who's required to have a high school diploma and a certificate. So there's a lot of disparity in the way that our pay is structured now because it hasn't been maintained equitably. And that's where we can correct all of that, move it forward, and then determine how we can implement it to get everybody up to where we would like to see them. And doing a study doesn't mean necessarily that we're going to pay at 100% of the market. That is by no means. We can have a goal of being 80% of the median or 90% or 70% or whatever that may be once we see what that benchmark looks like and what that data shows us. And that's the beauty of this too, is that everything that we will do will be data-based. Tessa will have the data to show us, here's where it's at, and then you can drive the bus on what you want it to look like going forward as a board. So I think that's the really nice piece of this as well.
So can I follow up on that?
Yes, you may.
I agree with you. I think that it's been, okay, so we made a mistake on the board by letting these things happen. How are we gonna stop that? Even though we have a new one, we could have the same problems in the future. So we need to figure that out because we let people come in and go on. So as a board, it's our fault, is what I'm saying. And we need to figure that out some way. And then the other thing was, but we're not because it might happen again. So how do we stop that? Is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And number two, as we know, we've been training people and then they go on to SOC and then they go on to Dane and actually they go to Dane to SOC because SOC is paying so much more. So, and we couldn't afford what we wanted. The last time we wanted to be at a much higher tier and we couldn't afford it. So we do have to be realistic. And then my other question is, because I like everything you said, how did you pick one company and not another company in Wisconsin? And did you guys research this? I just want to know.
I had eight different submittals.
Oh, good.
We reached out to several different companies. And when I came to finance and personnel, I laid it all out. There were two, and the one that was a close second really wasn't a close second. They were located in Florida. They said, oh, we could maybe be on site once. I know Tessa, she will be here. She will hold meetings. She will meet with employees. She will meet with department heads. We will get that personalized attention. And I think that's really important because I think we need to build trust in this process because I don't think there's trust because of how poorly the last process went. And to address how we change it going forward, number one, the jobs are looked at a third of the jobs every year. So unless you have a significant change in job duties, it will not be looked at for reclassification. And significant meaning something that you will do 50% or more of the time is considered significant. So not just an occasional, oh, you got to fill in if somebody's not there for a week. Okay, that's not a significant and consistent change. So, and that would be up to the department head would then need to bring that to me. And then we would decide, and that's when I would consult with Tessa and say, does this really warrant a reevaluation? And 9 times out of 10, they don't. And the process will be now going forward. If you want a reclassification, if you want to change the structure of your department or how you're operating, that will come at budget time. And that is the only time that we will entertain those things. Because realistically, when you're on the maintenance plan, the data also drives when you look at a job. So if we have a third of the jobs that we're looking at this year, and Tessa, because she has all the data, notices that there's jobs that really aren't on the list till next year, but they're already 10% below where we want to be. We'll pull those up this year and adjust them now so that by the time we get to them, they're not 20% below the market. So that's where having the data help us along is really, really nice. Because no, it's not going to be a free-for-all anymore where if you just feel like it, you're going to submit the reclassification.
So I should have listened better to the resolution, but did we put it on the resolution that we're only going to do it at budget time?
No, that'll come in the personnel rules.
Okay.
That will come with the personnel
Just wanna
overhaul
make
that
sure
we're doing.
that we're.
Someone else.
Sorry.
I just want to say that Tessa has great job security here because this is a proverbial dog chasing its tail. You have to do this every year. If you're doing business the same way you were last year, you're probably doing it wrong. So that's why the maintenance thing is important. This is never ending. As long as we're all here, this will continue on.
Right. And know that, like, I get that you, like, we just did it, why do we have to do this? You can just start with the market analysis and just let us do that piece and we'll show you where you are. If you have a valley, that means you're deviating from the market. Why? It's a misclassification. That is gonna tell you that. So I'm not trying to not sell something like that, but I get your hesitation and I don't want you to do something because you're hesitating like on that. But you're right. I think the data should drive it. It shouldn't be subjected to one person who you may not even see on campus saying that this job is valued there. We also have a classification appeal process, so the department and the employee can come and say, I don't agree with it, and then I can look at it again because I don't know everything. And I want it to be a transparent process that doesn't just happen in a silo.
No. And when we did this before, every employee was able to appeal their job description twice. And the job description is just that, the job description. We want to make sure that what they do is accurate because what everyone does then equates into those points, which equates into where they fall on the wage scale. Everyone always thinks that the money piece is the most important. The money piece is not the most important. It's getting what you do right. And that's why it goes through the employee, their supervisor, the department head, and HR before it gets sent off to Tessa. And when anything is changed, that is scanned in and sent to the employee so they know exactly what was done so that it's absolutely transparent. That is key to this process so that people trust it, that they know that everything that's being done is upfront and clear. And I can't say that enough. And it worked extremely well in a very, very mistrustful staff that was really burned by a wage study before. So, you know, I think it'll put people's mind at ease as far as how this process will go.
So you have experience with these?
Yes, I've worked with Tessa. So I did a wage study in Freeborn County. They hadn't done one in 18 years. And Tessa was who we brought in to do that wage study. And I can tell you that the adjustments have been much more minimal. It's been consistent. People are very happy with it. We have far less turnover. We have better retention. We have better attraction.
Which is why Mr. Reddish, I think, made the motion in finance. Let's not delay this any longer. Let's go with this firm.
Both maintenance.
Bring it
Yep.
for recommendation to the board, and that's why it's here. Did you have a hand up, Tim? Yes, Brett.
Several questions. Is this a done deal or are we, what are we doing? What are we doing here tonight? Are we just getting this presentation or are we?
No, we have a resolution to go with this firm.
And this is not to insult Minnesota, but I can't believe that there isn't something in Wisconsin that would have done this.
Oh, there were at a much higher price point.
Okay, so bringing up price. Are we deciding on which option we're using tonight?
Finance and personnel recommended the full comp and class with the annual payments.
So it's $83,875 a year?
No,
Nope. It would just, so that's a great question, that is just a one-time fee that literally rewrites all your job descriptions, does your market analysis, recalibrates, and does cost implementation. So that's a one-time fee. Ongoing maintenance at that point would be the option 4 after that, so that you then look at it a third. And it's not atypical to take 1 year off and say, thank you, Tessa, we're just gonna breathe for this year, and then we do ongoing maintenance, like, you know what I mean? Like, if we did it in 2024, take off 2025, and then do 26, 27, and 28. I like a third, but we can split that up differently too. So no, you only pay that one time.
Okay, and so if we do this, are you saying that within 3 years, this will all be done?
No, if you did the 89, everything would be done in 2024.
Yep.
Not to say who's ever listening that it'll be implemented and everyone will get X amount of checks. That means the jobs will be up to date, the classifications will be, but you'll have a budget for, like, if you say implementation is January 1st, 2025, we'll run a couple of cost options to get there. Sometimes we go backwards and say, what do you have? We have this bucket, okay, we're gonna make that work. This is phase 1. Phase 2 might be this. So the 5th option is the most expensive, but it's the most aggressive. It is saying we are taking the Band-Aid off completely, starting over. Doing the other ones, you're kind of taking the Band-Aid off, putting some Neosporin and fixing it. It's like, I'm a mom, sorry, but that's what I look at. So that's why it is more expensive, because we do everything all in 1 year.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Gutschall.
So we're kind of pseudo agreeing, we're not voting on anything tonight for how we implement things like this in the future. If we're gonna do it at the budget or through the budget process, we start that in earnest in August, July.
Oh, no, we're gonna start budget in probably April, May.
May? Okay,
Yes.
so do we have, what would that look like for this year? Do we know that? Yeah. We get approval, let's say we get approval tonight. Are we doing something for budget 25?
If we get approval tonight and we start the comp and class and we get it all done this year, which is what I would like to see happen.
This year meaning 2024. I will not have it done by December 31st.
In 2024, yes, let's be clear, in 2024, the goal of implementation, in 2025 would be a realistic goal for us to have. Then we wouldn't have any real reclassifications coming through this year. It would really be adopting the new job descriptions, adopting the new wage scales. All of those things would be what would be coming in front of the board through that process to basically reset everything and then set the standard. Then next year during the budget process, that's when we would send out, if we decided to go with the maintenance right away, not take a year off, we would send out to that third of the jobs. And that'll be very transparent. We send that out in the very beginning. Okay, here's your year, here's your year, so everybody knows what year which jobs are getting evaluated. We would then send out, it's an updated PAQ form. Yep. What has changed has anything changed? Okay, what does that look like? Then Tessa pulls all that back. She runs the market data. And then she says, okay, based on what we have, this job, and this job need adjustment. And here's what their adjustment needs to be. They should be a step higher or a grade higher. Then that's what we would bring back to you for approval and to roll into the budget process.
But if you had someone retire, we would look at that job at that point and say, is this matching what the county needs? If yes, this job description is right. If no, we're gonna do it. Or you have like 2 departments going into one, we would do those at that point too.
And unlike now where you're paying, $275 for one piece of it and another $300 if you want them to do the FLSA, $500 to $700 for one job. We're paying this fee, but that means anything that we need throughout that year is included in that fee. We don't pay anything else, which is really nice. So that if we are exploring new job opportunities or again, we're reorganizing, whatever it may be, we can just call Tessa, she'll draw it up and we'll go that route.
Respectfully, I think I understand that, but if we're gonna fund something in 2025, a third or less or something, we have to know what we're funding by, we vote on a budget in September.
Right, drop dead date of knowing that is in September and we'll have it long before that.
We'll have it long.
We'll literally, like, if you say go, we'll start, like, I would say by March, we'll have good data for you.
Yep.
And then you can start looking at it, then you can say, okay, well, if we did option A, what would that cost? We would come back and then, okay, that's too much. What about if we did B? So it's not done, but the nice thing is when you go into budget, you'll have all those costs by operating group or however you do it, so that you know exactly where the money is gonna come from and how it looks. You'll literally, like, not that you guys will be in there, but we will literally have every single employee, what their current rate is, what January 1st, if they have a step increase, if there's a COLA, you will see all of that in there.
And we're able to use ARPA money for our initial shot here. And I know that tendency is, oh, well, it's ARPA, that's, no. Let's reset here before this current budget, before we ratified our budget, before we got a realistic shared compensation to the state of Wisconsin. We couldn't even talk about this. This wasn't even, well, you guys, you employees, whatever, you're stuck where you are. And because of those things that happened, we were able to pass a budget that was balanced. And we didn't have to get into ARPA funds to do that. So then that freed up those funds to do some of these other things that you've neglected for years. So
It's infrastructure money, and there are a lot of ways we can then get creative with how we want this to look and how we want it implemented. And again, once we have that data, then that's the time, that's the jumping off point for those discussions, which will be exciting.
So I'm ready to ask for a vote on this, and feel uncomfortable voting, then vote no, and we'll see what happens. So, have the resolution before us. You want to reread it quick?
Yeah, so again, resolution 23-13, the decision part is now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval to enter into the agreement with David Brown Associates for the full classification and compensation study with the annual maintenance. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon passage and publication, again presented by Finance and Personnel on November 7th of 23.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think we have a typo in there. It says that approval to enter into, it doesn't ever say it's granted. That we're granting the approval.
Got it.
Mark that up as a typo.
Typo? Okay. All right, and we have a motion and a second, I believe, do we not?
We do.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For our employees, thank you all. This was exciting.
Number 18, resolution approving county position reclassifications. New positions, job descriptions, premium pay, and updates to addendums of the county employee handbooks. Mr. Kalish, you give us an abbreviated reading.
I will. So this will be resolution number 23-114. So whereas the Finance and Personnel Committee has reviewed and recommends the following reclassifications, position descriptions, new positions, wage adjustments, and handbook modifications. So the list of all of those begins with administration there, that's bold and underlined, goes through the next couple pages there. And then the last change would be the handbook modification and premium pay adjustment for maintenance workers. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that they do approve the 2024 budgeted reclassifications, position descriptions, new positions, handbook modifications, and wage adjustments as noted above. So it's that list that you have before you. And then be it further resolved that these changes shall be in effect the first payroll of 2024. This is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee that reviewed it on December 5 of 23.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kalish. And this, in your folders, this is under
18.
This is the wrong thing. What is it on?
18.
18. Okay.
So in the folder, there are several different attachments that kind of relate to each one of these as they're presented. So I know there's A through whatever, sorry, but it's just all these pieces that compose this one massive resolution with all these changes. So full disclosure.
Okay, yes.
So to be clear, the way it was discussed with me prior years, when we went through the budget process, obviously we highlighted the 3 brand new positions during the budget cycle, but that the changes that were made to the reclassifications and things like that all came in resolutions after the fact. I will say, I don't like this format. Next year, anything like this will happen at budget time and will be addressed then. But if we have a whole new compensation study going on, we probably won't have to do onesies and twosies like this anyway. There may be some handbook changes or things of that nature. But, so again, all of these have gone through finance and personnel. They've also gone through their respective committees prior to getting here. So many of you may have seen some of these already. Correct. All of these items were included in the departmental budgets. So this is not anything that is new or would modify the budget as it has already been passed at this time.
See, Candace, you could have put this on the agenda before her presentation, then her presentation would have made sense.
I guess we could have been more strategic about it, but.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Barb.
She's making a motion.
You're making a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. To approve the compensation and whatever jargon we use. Big thing. All right. Are you ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Like that. Why don't we just have one big motion on everything?
It's not best practice.
I did run that one by Mike, just to be
All
safe.
right. A resolution amending resolution 14-149 amended related to making changes in how ambulance service is provided by the county. Mr. Taylor.
This will be resolution number 23-115. Now therefore be it resolved that resolution number 14-149, which was amended, is hereby further amended by adding the following paragraph before the last be it resolved paragraph of that resolution. We have the added text there in quotes. Be it further resolved that the policy on personnel classification, compensation, and staff authorization of Richland County be amended following the hiring of EMTs as approved by the Joint Ambulance Committee in consideration of the budget and staffing needs. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. And this is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on December 5 of 23.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Manning, you're making a motion. Do we have a second? Ms. Linman, seconds. Do we have anyone
Amber Birch was present.
here to talk about Amber? Amber Birch?
Yep, I'm here. I'm here if you can hear me.
Yeah, we certainly can. Can you comment on this, please?
Yeah, so just as you just discussed in the last item, we are adding so that we can allow for hiring of EMTs. When this amendment or when this resolution was first set, it was stating for advanced EMTs only. We've hit a point where we have enough advanced EMTs, and hiring people who are trained to the EMT level will help with budgets, will also allowing us to cover the schedule more comfortably. So, because we only need to have one advanced EMT, and then it can be an EMT or another advanced EMT at that stage. So this will be able to help us with budgets because an EMT doesn't need to be paid the same wage as the advanced EMT. So as was stated in the last item, the EMT would be making just under what the advanced EMT is set at until the comp study is
Okay, thank you, Amber.
Yep.
It's getting tough, folks, to and speaking very generically, to manage service, and this will help. And the ambulance service is revenue neutral as far as the county is concerned, so this is a good thing. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you, Amber. Number 20, resolution approving 3 new members to the Nutrition Advisory Committee effective August 1st of 23. Wait a minute, have we already gone past that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is right.
Oversight.
Okay, so this will be resolution number 23-116. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the appointment of Roseanne Nauer, replacing Christine Storer, Linda Simons as the Advocate Older Americans Act Representative, formerly the Community HDM position, and Lee Van Landuit, replacing Janet Jasper as the Germantown Representative. Be further resolved that the terms of these appointments are 2 years in length, with a maximum of 3 terms, 6 years, not including partial terms. Be further resolved that these appointments were approved at the June Nutrition Advisory Council meeting and shall be effective August 1 of 2023, with members receiving a $30 per diem and mileage reimbursement of 0.51 per mile. Be further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication. This is being offered to by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on December 5 of 2023 and was approved at the Nutrition Advisory Council on June 7 of 2023.
We've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Williamson, do I have a second? Mr. Turk?
So this,
Okay, we're correcting an oversight here.
so this was an oversight on my part. We got them appointed through the Nutrition Advisory. I forgot to bring it through to the committee. So I do apologize for that, but they have been sitting in on the committee meeting. So we're just asking that they be compensated for their time and then to appoint.
All right. All those in favor of these appointments signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. We covered you. You bet. Resolution approving the purchase of the Spillman Automatic Vehicle Locator, AVL module. Mr. Gailey.
This will be resolution number 23-117. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Public Safety Standing Committee and the Sheriff's Department to purchase Spillman AVL module from Motorola Solutions for a price of $16,716.02. Be it further resolved that the cost of carrying out this resolution on the above amount shall be paid from 2023 Fund 92 short-term borrowing, and that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This is being offered to you by the Public Safety Standing Committee on July 7 of 23.
What's your pleasure? Mr. Cosgrove, seconded by Mr. Reddish. And
Aaron is
Aaron
on.
Wallace, did you want to comment on this?
Yeah, can you hear me
Chief
okay?
Deputy Wallace. Yes,
All right.
yes.
Yeah, this module, it goes with our current system, Spillman. This will help us in dispatch track where our deputies are located at. So when a call comes in, we can try to get the fastest route, actual map out the fastest route to location for any type of emergencies or for any other type of calls.
And this was part of the borrowing.
Correct. For the short-term permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've already basically approved it, but there it is. So we need it. All those.
Is that, are we making a motion or did we do that already?
We already made the motion.
All right.
You can vote though. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. It's approved, Darren. Thank you.
Thank you.
A resolution purchasing a new Buffalo Terra station from J-Comp at the cost of $28,520.72. Mr. Kalish.
Resolution number 23-118. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that there's approval to purchase a new Buffalo Terra station from J-Comp at the cost of $28,520.72. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication and is being offered to you by the Public Works Standing Committee on August 10th of 23.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. McKee, seconded by Ms. Fleming. Who speaks to this? Barb?
It's just, we are growing, our data is not gonna get any less. In fact, you'll be seeing more and more data with the video that we are collecting now, and so we have to keep up with that. Do that.
This, Barb, this is kind of, this next several resolutions here are dealing with security issues, dealing with procedural issues. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Questions? All right, if not, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of this resolution to purchase the fire station, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Number 23, a resolution approving Richland County to enter into a contract with Deep Sea Cybersecurity Service for endpoint and network monitoring using carbon black XDR for a total cost of $45,273.60 annually. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 23-119. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for Richland County MIS Department to enter into a contract with Deep Sea Cybersecurity Services for endpoint and network mapping or network monitoring using carbon black XDR for a total cost of $45,273.60 annually. Be it further resolved that the funds to carry out this resolution shall come from the 2023 short-term borrowing, that's Fund 92 for MIS expenses, and hereby is granted for the MIS director to sign the purchase agreement for these services. This resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication, is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on December 5 of 23.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Manning, seconded by Ms. Fleming. One of those things just talked about. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have passed the resolution. Number 24, a resolution approving Richland County to enter into a contract with, is it Catalyst or Catalyst?
Catalyst.
Catalyst for permit management for total cost of $21,750, of which $13,500 is an annual expense and $8,250 is a one-time setup fee. Mr. Kalish.
Resolution number 23-120. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Richland County MIS Department to enter into a contract with Catalyst for permit management for the total cost of $21,750 with an annual renew of $13,500. Be it further resolved that the funds to carry out this resolution shall come from 2023 unused zoning salary funds, and approval is hereby granted for the MIS director to sign the purchase agreement for these services. This resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication. It's being offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on November 27th of 23.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Ms. Gentis, seconded by Ms. Fleming. You're doing good on those seconds.
So we have talked a little bit about increased accountability in the zoning office and a better record keeping mechanism. And this will give us that. Barb, anything to add?
No, it will completely track and it integrates with our GCS, which is not GCS anymore, but sorry, our tax database, so that it
import the data.
will eliminate, the data will be much cleaner and very integrated.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Number 25, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, a resolution approving Richland County to enter into a contract with Environmental System Research Institute for ARC, is it ARC or is that misspelled? ARC GIS licensing for desktops, a total of $37,402 annually. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 23-121. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Richland County MIS Department to enter into a contract with Environmental System Research Institute, ESRI, for ARC GIS licensing for desktops at a total cost of $37,402 annually. The funds to carry out this resolution shall come from the 2024 NG 911 GIS grant. Approval is hereby granted for the MIS director to sign the purchase agreement for these services, and this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication, again offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on November 27th of 23.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Cosgrove? Ms. Genta seconds.
Sure.
Okay, any explanations required?
It's just the licensing, we need to maintain our mapping for the county. We're switching to a different model of licensing so that we can share it throughout all the departments. As we grow, we're finding it important in all departments. Highway, land conservation, it's not the zoning anymore. So as it grows now, our licenses can be shared from the treasurer's office all the way down. So it's looking more value. And it is covered by the NG911 grant.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Grant money. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Number 26, a resolution approving Richland County to enter into a contract with J-Comp Technologies, Inc. for 3 years for Beam Essentials Enterprise Software and Maintenance for a total cost of $11,219.16. Mr. Gailish.
Resolution number 23-122, now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Richland County MIS Department to enter into a contract with J-Comp Technologies, Inc. for 3 years for Beam Essentials Enterprise Software and Maintenance at a total cost of $11,419.16. Be it further resolved that the funds to carry out this resolution shall come from the 2023 short-term borrowing for MIS expenses, and hereby approval is granted for the MIS director to sign the purchase agreement. This resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication, and this is being offered to you by the Public Works Standing Committee, which just met at 5:30 today, which is why there's no X's on there for approval, but it did go through committee approval at 5:30 this evening.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Manning, seconded by Mr. McGee. And you guys met on it about, I don't know, 3 hours ago now. Sent it up to us, so I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted. 27, resolution updating the employee uniform allowance procedure. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 23-123. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the Sheriff's Office secretarial staff receive $250 taxable uniform allowance payouts on June 1 of 2024 and December 1 of 2024. Be it further resolved that the current employee uniform allowance for the Sheriff's secretarial staff sunset on 1/1/2025. This resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on December 5 of 2023.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Need a motion? Ms. Fleming, seconded by Williamson. Motion is before us. Anybody want to comment?
So this is it's a little bit of cleanup. What we discovered was that the secretarial staff in the sheriff's office was still receiving a uniform allowance. I think it was a holdover from years past when they were required to wear a uniform, and then when when the union was dispelled for them, they still continued to get this uniform allowance. The problem was they were not being taxed on it. And so their operation didn't fall under receipt base. They were not buying a uniform that was emblazoned with sheriff's office or required to wear a specific uniform. Therefore, it is not non-taxable and reimbursable. So this way, we're going to tax the benefit this year. And then after discussion, it's been recommended that the practice be sunsetted, because we do have tons of people who are wearing street clothes, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But this way, we're not just ripping it out from underneath them. Hopefully, the new wage study will be in place, and it won't feel like they're losing dollars. So that's the purpose of this in front of you.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very lengthy agenda tonight, folks. We accomplished a lot. So, Mr. Manning. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Fleming seconds.
The win.
Kind of rolls with me.
I'll give you your score after I get the minutes down, okay? Lost track